John Meyers here, the Westmoreland Sports Network, joined by the first-year head coach for the Greater Latrobe Wildcats. He scored his first head coaching victory this past Friday, 55-0, defeating Derry area. Ron Prady, thank you so much for doing this, Ron. First off, congratulations. I know you want to focus on your team, your great performance of all your players, but first, what did it mean to you on a personal level to score your first win in your first game as a head coach at Greater Latrobe?
You said it. I was more happy for the guys than me. It's not about me. It's about those guys and how well we play and how well we prepare. So I was happy for our team.
Did they do anything for you afterwards?
They did. I got a game ball, which was awfully nice of them. But again, I told them we'll address that after the season. We got another game to worry about. So
absolutely. So I'm sure that there was a lot of enjoyment in that locker room. Really, it seemed like it was a great debut, not only for you as a head coach, but for your running back, Robbie Fulton. And I know you'd mentioned when I came and saw you at camp, this guy could be really, really good for us. He was primarily a defensive player at Pittsburgh Central Catholic, but you knew that he could be an impact player on offense as well. So obviously he put up big numbers. What have you seen from him all throughout his time, and in particular on Friday night?
Number one, Robbie has really good vision. When there's a cutback lane, he'll hit the cutback. When it's, at the point of attack, he'll hit that too. And he's explosive through the hole. He's powerful. He runs low. His pad level's down. He's tough to tackle. He's, really, really good with the ball in his hands, and we got to find ways to keep doing that.
Was it even surprising to you, though, how effective he was going over 200 yards, scoring all 5 of the game's touchdowns in the first half?
A bit of a surprise. And obviously the guys up front, Robbie will be the first one to tell you, those guys up front did a good job giving him a little bit of space. And like I said afterward, he doesn't need a ton of space, but there were a few times he had a lot of room to run. And we were proud of the offensive line as well as Robbie.
Well, you talk about the guys up front. It seemed like that was a little bit of a question mark. You had a few guys that you've seen play varsity level, but there were some other ones kind of breaking into starting roles. So how has that group maybe developed over the past couple of months for you?
I think our offensive line coach, Josh Hammock, does a really good job, and he's brought those guys along slowly but surely. They just keep getting better every week. And, they're a group that has kind of gelled together, and I think we'll continue as the season goes on. That's what we're hoping, because our chances pretty much lie with those guys up front, as most teams do.
I've talked to you now 3-4 times between coming out to camp and doing a couple of preview stories. And one thing that you mentioned is you really like your sophomore quarterback, John Wetzel, but you also don't want to put him in a spot where he has to go out and have a Herculean effort to win games. So how did you evaluate his play, and ultimately what was his responsibility in a game like Friday when the running game was working so well?
Yeah, well, number one, he took care of the ball. And I think, we didn't turn the ball over Friday at all. And that's going to be the key for us. If we can, not turn it over and get a couple like we did Friday, a couple turnovers, that's certainly going to work in our favor. And that's what we're going to ask John to do, not turn it over, make the smart throws, make throws when they're there. He's certainly capable of doing all that. We just want to limit, how much he has to do for us this year. Being a sophomore quarterback's tough, and as athletic and as gifted as he is, we're going to try to make it as simple and as easy as we can for him this year. He'll grow, and those responsibilities may grow as the season goes on too. But right now it's early, and we want to simplify things for him.
Well, your running back had a terrific performance in the season opener, but Derry area had a really good running back in their own right in Ahmad Ward. Your defense kept him and the entire Trojans offense under wraps, obviously pitching a shutout. What really stood out about the defensive performance that impressed you?
Well, I think just the fact that we're running to the ball, we're getting, 11 helmets to the ball. And that's what we've stressed, since day one. And I mentioned that, we got a couple turnovers. When they did move the ball, both of their extended drives ended with turnovers, which, we were also happy to see. But the guys are learning the defense. It's still a process. They're getting better at it. They're getting better at their reads, getting better at just aligning to what we see offensively. And it's been a nice progression, and we hope it continues.
When you talk about learning the defense, that's because you sort of changed things on that side of the football. And for those unaware, you were a defensive coach before you came to Greater Latrobe. So what is sort of your vision for what this defense can be ultimately?
Yeah, I think we're pretty decent at all three levels up front, with Wyatt Held and Danny Calabrese and Ray DePilka and Caleb Lehman, Timmy Meyers. Those guys will all play. The linebacker level, we feel like we have some guys with Corey Borio and Lakin and Tash and Fulton and Wetzel. And then the secondary, we have a bunch of guys that play back there, corners and safeties, Colin Stevens and Jaton Williams, Brady Prohovic, Aiden Butina. Those guys all, playing back end, along with John Wetzel. And Vince Gasky gives us some depth back there. So, we feel like we have some guys that can play. They like to run to the ball. They like to create turnovers. So we're hoping that continues.
Talking to Ron Prady, the first-year head coach for the Greater Latrobe Wildcats, his team off to a 1-0 start. So I know that you were probably pretty busy on Friday night, but did you happen to take a glance maybe afterwards at the Penn Trafford score in which the Warriors kind of won a wild one?
I did. I saw that. Happy for those guys. I see Conlon Green had a big night, and Daniel Terbrella, two guys I read about. So really happy for those guys, and I'm sure they'll continue to keep it rolling.
And of course, you're going to be cheering for PT anytime you don't have to worry about going against them, I'm sure, throughout your time at Greater Latrobe. But let's talk a little bit about being part of that championship run. Obviously, the WPIAO title and then the thrilling state title win. How has that maybe added to your credibility and allowed you to maybe try to instill some of those championship qualities with this Wildcats team that hasn't been to that level?
Yeah, I'm not sure how much credibility it gives me. I think, maybe a little coming from PT means something, and it was a special run for sure. Our kids will ask me about it sometimes, a couple guys, and I maybe occasionally will bring it up to them too, but try to let them.
You're not wearing a ring every day to practice, are you?
No. Have you seen that thing? It's pretty big, and that thing's hard to wear. But no, the kids are interested. They'll ask me sometimes, and we talk about it a little bit. They're more interested in the culture there, why they win. They want to do some of the things that the PT's done to be so successful, and we're certainly trying to implement some of those things. I've said it before. What John does with PT and his staff is tried and true, and it works. And it's built on discipline and being good people, and we were really proud of that back there at PT, and as they are, and we're trying to implement some of those things there at PT or at Latrobe. I'm sorry.
We'll touch a little bit on your next opponent, Franklin Regional. You have another Westmoreland County showdown upcoming this week. But before we get to that bigger picture, what are some of the goals that you've set, maybe both this year and in the long term here at Greater Latrobe?
Yeah, we didn't set any, as far as wins and losses, we didn't set, any goals. I just tell them, look one game at a time. Don't look ahead of the schedule. Let's focus on who we have this week. And when that game's over, we'll move on. Win or lose, we're going to prepare our tails off for the next game too. So I think for us, that's been our focus, not the number of wins, not making the playoffs. We'll let that all work itself out. We just want to play well each Friday and prepare hard throughout the week. And as far as the long-term goals, again, it's not something that I've set any goals. We need to make the playoffs in year 2, 3, 4. We just want to play hard every week, and we've seen some really big improvement in our kids as far as attitude, as far as the willingness to prepare their butts off, and we hope that those things turn into wins for us.
couple words that you just used was prepare and focus. I would imagine that was tested not only for your team, but for a lot of teams on Friday because there was delays unexpectedly. There was a lot of lightning. I don't know that it was as much rain as there was lightning delays, at least from what we saw. We were at Greensburg-Salem, didn't see a drop of rain, but they didn't even get to play the second half because of multiple lightning delays. And I know your squad went through that against Derry. As a coach, what do you do in those scenarios where you know you're probably going to be sitting around waiting for 30 minutes or so before you get back out there?
Yeah, we tried to keep them busy with some meetings, and we took the field. It was raining pretty hard in Derry. Started about 6 o'clock, 6:15, and so we took the field, and it was raining pretty hard. And a little bolt of lightning at some point there. We didn't see it because we hadn't been out of the locker room yet. But when we got on the field, they said that they were going to delay the game to 7:45 start. But we were already out there, and I didn't want to take that first group of guys back in. So we extended our pregame a little bit, and then after the first quarter, I think there were 12 seconds gone in the second quarter. We had a actual lightning delay. And that half hour, we try to have some meetings and talk about, obviously we have iPads we can look at. So show the kids some things on the iPads, good and bad, just to try to keep them focused was the key. That half hour, you go play a quarter and then you got to take a break for a half hour and come back out and turn it back on. It was certainly a challenge for us, but we wanted to keep our kids focused on the task at hand.
I'm sure your background being closely involved with softball probably helps with that. Probably a lot of rain delays that you've experienced over the years.
Yeah, no doubt. But the girls were different. They like to dance and sing. That's the part that drove me crazy about softball. But they had a good time. And girls are girls. They're different.
So let's talk a little bit about this upcoming matchup, Franklin Regional. Now, I would think you're going to be tested a little bit more because Franklin Regional did not play a game. They played a second scrimmage instead against a very good opponent in Bell Vernon area, but you don't have actual game footage. You have to go by scrimmage footage. And I'm sure there's already some familiarity being in the same conference with them for so many years and seeing their plays at 7-on-7. But is that a little bit more work that you have to do because they did not play an actual game, or is it really all the same?
I think it's more work. You go back and look at last year, what they did. Coach Getsy's been there. This will be a second year, so we don't go back any further than last year. But look at some of the things they did last year, along with their scrimmages. And I can tell you, they're really physical, and it's going to be a tough one. I think their skill guys are good. The receiver's really good. Quarterback's a great athlete and throws the ball well. Running back is a tough kid, so we're certainly going to have our hands full.
You were not with Greater Latrobe last year, but I'm sure you're very familiar what happened against Franklin Regional. And for the players who were there, who were on the wrong end of what was a pretty remarkable comeback, how motivated are they, and how important is this game to them, even though it's no longer a conference game?
Yeah, that hasn't even been brought up, to be honest. We're going to focus on this year, and I'm sure maybe in those guys' mind, it's in their minds. But for me, like you said, I have no part in that, and I'm not sure that it'll be brought up this week. I think, again, our focus is on this year and preparing as well as we can Monday to Thursday, and showing up Friday in Murraysville and playing hard. So I'm maybe in the players' minds it is, maybe in the fans, but for me, like you said, I wasn't a part of it, so it doesn't mean a whole lot to me.
Well, Ron, thank you so much for taking the time. Once again, congratulations on getting that first victory at Greater Latrobe. Go enjoy it and have good success the rest of this season.
Thanks, Sean. We'll see you soon.
That's Ron Prady.
Thanks to Westmoreland Sports, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Ron Prady, head coach of Greater Latrobe, right here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron.